Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back for your Two for Tuesday Conan video. As you saw from the thumbnail, I'm going to be talking about the first half or third. Let's go with third of the Conan Omnibus. This is the Heroic Titan version, not the Marvel version. The Marvel versions are more or less out of print, and I don't know who this Heroic Titan company is, but they actually put together a really solid, really nicely printed Conan Omnibus with a few little extras that the Marvel doesn't have. They're rather almost insignificant, so I'm not going to go into them. Instead, I am going to let everybody know right off the bat, because this is Marvel, and it was done with the comic code, and it veers way off from the Robert E. Howard, canon books. We have to look at this as a completely alternate timeline universe Conan, where he does a whole bunch more stuff than you'd ever get anywhere else, because there are several volumes, and this one only covers the first 26 issues, and I'm pretty certain Marvel went into about a dozen of these omnibuses, so there's so much more in here than was in the Gnome Press books, or even the Daw books, or the Ace books, or even the complete Conan book that I have back here. With that said, let's go into the first. I think I read the first 11 issues, and some of them were literally adaptations of the original stories, like The God and the Bull, Rogues in the House, The Frost Giant's Daughter, which I haven't gotten to, but that one's it's coming up. So the first one, we find young Conan in Venarium, ends up fighting for the Aesir because they pay more gold, as something of a mercenary, and a weird encounter where he partakes in a like near, or some sort of ritual where he gets glimpses of not just his own future, but the future where you see in spaceships and stuff, which I thought was really kind of it's only done because it was Marvel Comics, And right off the bat, another thing I want to touch before we go any further is this is not Barry Windsor and what was the other artist? Let me look. Because there were two artists in the early years that I was not a big fan of. Gil Kane. John Buscema is one of my all-time favorites. Gil Kane and Barry Windsor in this format just doesn't compare. Even Barry Windsor Smith in the Savage Sword of Conan, it takes him a while before he really starts to shine. Later on in life, he does some other things that I'm going to talk about next month that show what a phenomenal talent he was. But just here, a lot of it looks like he's trying to imitate Jack Kirby, which is fine, but kind of ill-placed in a Conan saga. But those are my personal opinions. You guys may have other opinions. Bernie Wrightson is probably my second favorite artist of all time. But let's get into issue number 2, where Conan teaches some humans that were captured by these beastmen in this fantastical city that even they can no longer completely keep up and running. So they have these human slaves, and Conan gets captured and teaches them to rebel. It's kind of interesting, but it's a little above his pay grade for his age of being like 16. It's just like, yeah. And then the way they draw him, he looks 26, not 16, and I've never seen that happen in the real world. Even when a young man is really ripped and really in top physical shape, the face still needs some developing, and he's already But I digress. Issue number 3, The Grim Gray God. Actually a really kind of interesting and kind of sad story where Conan, through defeating the last worshippers of a god who speaks to him at the beginning of the story, the god, kind of foretells his own demise, saying that everything must die, even gods. And then through Conan defeating the last of his worshippers, the Valkyries come and take the last of the worthy dead up to the god, who then himself dies because there's no more left. It's kind of weird, but kind of sad, for a Viking fan. And I don't mean the football team. Number 4 was Tower of the Elephant, which was actually really well done and very true to the story without any added anything. It was pretty much straightforward. They may have taken out a couple of little scenes, but all in all, it was nice to see, even if it was in color. Number 5 was probably one of my favorite stories thus far. Zakula's Daughter, where a powerful wizard, Zakula, and his daughter are, raking in money from this poor little village town, with the taxes that should be going somewhere else, but they're using their reputation. And his daughter is actually not a lout or a cretin. She's under her dad. She can't do anything about it. He's a powerful wizard. She's actually some sort of were-tiger or something, who instantly falls in love with Conan, declares her undying love forever and ever on first sight. Kind of cheesy, but kind of sweet at the same time. And unfortunately, I think she has to kill her father to save Conan, even though she's dying herself. It's, everybody has to die at the end of a Conan story. There are very few instances, except for coming up, that any of these characters, either in Robert E. Howard's books or even in the comics, ever come back, or at least that's my recollection from the old days. Devil Wings Over Shadowzar is where Conan first meets a sort of a thief, a scoundrel named Jenna, who they're going to have an on and off sort of relationship coming up. But he has to rescue her from a temple involving a god of the night that's really just a giant bat that's been more or less trained through years of sacrifice to come to this temple to get a free meal, free hot meal, pardon the pun, which at this time ends up being Jenna, and that, he of course rescues her, and that begins their semi-romance. They really don't show too much of that, but it's Conan and a woman, and if she's hot, there's a romance. It's just, what are you going to do when all your stats are 18? You can't help it. The next story is issue number 7, called The Lurker Within, but the previous issue had said coming next issue is The God in the Bowl. They changed the title, they changed a bunch of stuff. It's still The God in the Bowl, but instead of Conan seeing the stamp, like wax seal stamp, but engraving in the bottom of the bowl that's Thoth-Amon, he literally sees his face, and it's okay, whatever. We know later on Conan and Thoth-Amon are going to have a big dukeroo, but it's like in the very tail end of Conan's career. It's not for 30 years. It's I wish Thoth-Amon would have showed up earlier in Conan's career, but there were plenty of other wizards along the way. But very different from the original, but you still get where they're going. I don't know why they did that, and they didn't even, they really didn't need to change the name when they already went and told you it was The God in the Bowl. It was just, the early days of Marvel, there were lots of really, really big kind of mistakes like that. Number 8 was probably my favorite, just because of the exorbitant amount of treasure that doesn't just get yanked out from underneath Conan and his friends at the last minute, or pissed and hoard away real quick. Not that he really gets the treasure, but you get to see it, and that's more than you usually. It's like a bag of, coins. It's not. This is a room full where he teams up with a former enemy of his, from, only a few issues ago or some such, and they find this ancient city that's abandoned, unknown, not on the maps, and after Conan beats this giant iguana-looking thing by himself with just some stones from the top of the battlements, he meets his former enemy, and they decide to team up for a bit to plunder the first room they go into. Is just freaking treasure everywhere. Unfortunately, there's also like 8 big giant sarcophagi of undead, and as soon as they start pillaging the loot, the undead come out and they got to fight their way out. And of course, as soon as they get outside, the undead see the sunlight, they turn to dust, which is cool. But so does the treasure once they get to wherever they're going. Well, not so much for Conan. He steals a jade idol of a snake, and you guessed it, as soon as someone else grabs it, it turns into a snake and kills the guy, whereas his friend, once enemy, when he finds his treasure bag, opens it up, pours it out, tries to spend it, it's nothing but dust. And of course he bumps into Jenna at the end of the issue, who had taken the money she stole from him, opens up a tiny little dive bar, and she gets in trouble for just knowing Conan, so they have to flee together. It's like, wow, what a horrible time. You know the guy, so you're guilty and you're in jail just because you were talking to him. But any excuse to get Conan and Jenna back together for a little while. Issue 9 was kind of fun, where once again Jenna gets kidnapped by this strange, dark-skinned, ebony Hawkman kind of creature, who just kidnaps women only to take them to his tower, I guess have his way with them, and then throw them off the top of the tower, because all around the tower is this field of like these flowers that after they get their meal of a humanoid or whatever, the flowers turn red because of all the blood. It's really kind of creepy, but kind of interesting. I might steal that for an upcoming story. And of course Conan has to rescue Jenna once again. However, along the way, tracking her down, he meets some cavemen that help him out, and he also comes across elephants for the first time. And with the cavemen gave him like a knife and some rope and a fire starting kit, everything he needs to start a fire and stampede the elephants to just trample the man-eating flowers to death, so that he can get in and rescue Jenna and fight the Birdman and go on to issue number 10, which was Beware the Wrath of Anu, which is a bull god, where he and Jenna get to Corinthia and just start stealing shit left and right, and meet up with a couple of other thieves that they start hanging out with. But you can tell that of the 2 new thieves, there's this young blonde kid, and you can tell they're starting to have a thing going on, eyeballing each other from across the room kind of thing. And it's going to end badly for Conan. She's going to, or at least my guess is she's going to, choose the younger model, even though Conan's like 16 or 17 tops, so she must be, pretty young and like him younger. Unfortunately, the local city fence is also the high priest of Anu, who's also an informant. He's just an all-around scumbag. The funny thing is, though, he looks like Bobby Hill, the older version in the new King of the Hill, but I couldn't help but noticing that, even though it wasn't intentional. Maybe it was. But the Conan and the older thief become, friends, and they start, ripping the place off blind, doing all kinds of, big, heists, and eventually they want to do a really big one, so they decide to rob the temple. Unfortunately, the friend gets caught by the magistrate, and he's going to be hung the next day. and Conan cannot rescue him at all. He's like, his friend's up on the gallows. He thought he had a couple of days to rescue his friend, but no, and he watches him die, getting hung, which was actually a really well drawn out sequence, where you see him, in frame by frame, and then they just go to his feet, instead, because comic code, etc. But there's no doubt that his friend perishes. So Conan, of course, does the only thing that any red-blooded barbarian would do, and that's to storm the temple, find the priest, kick his ass, and then eventually sacrifice him to his own god because, just desserts and all that. And then I finished up with issue number 11, which was Rogues in the House, with all that you would expect. There's a little bit more. There's some changes in it, here and there, little things. But all in all, it was a nice rendition. In fact, the ape man thing was actually really well done and kind of imposing and scary. Not as scary as the cover of the original Conan Daw cover, the Frazetta work with the red cloak and everything. But still, it did it, justice, and it was a nice way for me to finish off the evening, because I read several of these issues tonight, so I could get this to you and get you a nice, almost 20-minute video on this. But there you have it. This is part 1, only about that way through the book. And I still have, there's 26 issues plus some stuff from Savage Tales 1 and number 4, which was also done in Savage Sword of Conan, which is kind of, I've said this before, I would have rather they just put in 2 more issues of Conan and left the Savage Sword type stuff in another volume. But that's what I have for you today and this morning. I will see you guys later, Wednesday. You guys won't see me. I'll be in a game later. Or maybe I'll be on DM James's show. I don't know. But that's what I got. Hope you guys have a great day. And as always, see you in the funny papers.